Assalamu alaikum, Aziz Ahmed here on the 19th October 2025. Today going to do a relatively long vlog in which we will trace how democracy and human rights have been championed by such luminaries as John F. Kennedy, the President of the United States, who was the embodiment of democratic values and a champion of human rights, compared to the present bully skunk Trump, who embodies all the bad things that one can imagine in America, in American life. We will have clips of the founding day of the People's Republic of China with Mao Zedong delivering the speech with an AI English translation version, as well as of Vladimir Ilyich Lenin during the Russian Revolution with the English AI version, followed by a very historic speech at the United Nations General Assembly this year by the President of Burkina Faso, Mr. Captain Ibrahim Traore. Captain rose to and overthrew the corrupt government in place then, and is a president who is making waves all over the world. We will also see a long speech by ex Prime Minister Imran Khan at the United Nations General Assembly, in which he also talks very candidly, frankly, and openly about the world and the Pakistan's position on various issues in the world. So, if somebody doesn't want to watch the whole video in one go, you can do so in installments because it's worth going through this. Also, at this stage, let me tell you that I'm also going to do a couple of more reportage on Ibrahim Traore's phenomenal government in Burkina Faso in the coming days. Thank you very much. Additionally, we will also have, of course, our own Qaid Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah talking about the role of the armed forces in Pakistan, and also show you again the oath taken at the passing out parade by the commissioned officers of Pakistan Army, in which they take oath not to meddle in politics and to abide by the only the lawful command of their officers.
मत भूलें कि फौज अवाम की मुलाजिम है। आपका काम नेशनल पॉलिसी बनाना नहीं है। इन मामलात पर फैसला लेना हम सिविलियंस का इख्तियार है। आपका काम है आप वो करें जो काम आपको सौंपा जाए। Do not forget that the armed forces are the servants of the people. You do not make national policy. It is we, the civilians, who decide these issues, and it is your duty to carry out these tasks with which you are interested.
Do not forget that the armed forces are the servants of the people. You do not make national policy. It is we, the civilians, who decide these issues. And it is your duty to carry out these tasks with which you are entrusted.
मैं सिद्ध के दिल से अल्लाह ताला को हाजिर व नाजिर जानकर हल्फ उठाता हूं कि मैं खुलूस नीयत से पाकिस्तान का हामी और वफादार रहूंगा और इस्लामी जमहूरिया पाकिस्तान के आईन की हिमायत करूंगा जो अवाम की ख्वाहिशात का मजहर है, और ये कि मैं अपने आप को किसी भी किस्म की सियासी सरगर्मियों में शरीक नहीं करूंगा और ये कि मैं
रोड का इलाका है और यहाँ पर हम लोग ये पैगाम जो है वो हर जगह के ऊपर इंशाअल्लाह ताला फ़ौज का जो असल किरदार है, जो मिलिट्री अकेडमी की जो पासिंग आउट के मौके के ऊपर ये उन्होंने एक हलफ लिया था, वो हम सबको बताएंगे कि उस हलफनामे में क्या है।
Abraham Lincoln is one of the most respected presidents in American history. Among his many famous words, one stands out: a government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. This is not just a slogan. It is a profound declaration that captures the essence of democracy. It reflects the belief that government should not serve a privileged few, but exist for the good of all people. A government chosen by the people, run by the people, and dedicated to serving the people. Lincoln devoted everything he had to uphold this ideal. Even today, his words resonate deeply with all those who strive to protect freedom and democracy. A government of the people, by the people, for the people. That spirit still lives within us today.
Товарищи красноармейцы, капиталисты Англии, Америки, Франции ведут войну против России. Они помогают деньгами и военными припасами русским помещикам, которые ведут против советской власти войска из Сибири, Дона, Северного Кавказа, желая восстановить власть царя, власть помещиков, власть капиталистов. Нет, этому не бывать. Красная армия непобедима.
The People's Republic of China and the Central People's Government are established today. Fortunately, our People's Liberation Army, backed by the whole nation, to defend the territorial sovereignty of our homeland, to protect the people's lives and property, to relieve the people of suffering, and to struggle for their rights, has been fighting heroically and selflessly.
I have the pleasure to present to you Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr.
I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. Five score years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will they be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream. My poor little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day, down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, one day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. Exalted. And every hill and mountain shall be made low, the rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is the faith that I go back to the South with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. This will be the day when all of God's children be able to sing with new meaning, my country, tears of thee. Sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. And so let freedom ring. From the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire, let freedom ring. From the mighty mountains of New York, let freedom ring. From the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania, let freedom ring. From the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado, let freedom ring. From the curvaceous slopes of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring, and when we gather, when we allow freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
But a celebration of freedom, symbolizing an end as well as a beginning, signifying renewal, as well as change. For I have sworn before you and Almighty God the same solemn oath our forebears prescribed nearly a century and 3/4 ago. The world is very different now, for man holds in his mortal hands the power to abolish all forms of human poverty and all forms of human life. And yet the same revolutionary beliefs for which our forebears fought are still at issue around the globe. The belief that the rights of man come not from the generosity of the state, but from the hand of God. We dare not forget today that we are the heirs of that first revolution. Let the word go forth from this time and place to friend and foe alike that the torch has been passed to a new generation of Americans born in this century, tempered by war, disciplined by a hard and bitter peace, proud of our ancient heritage, and unwilling to witness or permit the slow undoing of those human rights to which this nation has always been committed and to which we are committed today at home and around the world. Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe to assure the survival and the success of liberty. This much we pledge and more. To those old allies whose cultural and spiritual origins we share, we pledge the loyalty of faithful friends. United, there is little we cannot do in a host of cooperative ventures. Divided, there is little we can do, for we dare not meet a powerful challenge at odds and split asunder. To those new states whom we welcome to the ranks of the free, we pledge our word that one form of colonial control shall not have passed away, merely to be replaced by a far more iron tyranny. We shall not always expect to find them supporting our view, but we shall always hope to find them strongly supporting their own freedom, and to remember that in the past, those who foolishly sought power by riding the back of the tiger ended up inside. To those people in the huts and villages of half the globe struggling to break the bonds of mass misery, we pledge our best efforts to help them help themselves for whatever period is required, not because the communists may be doing it, not because we seek their votes, but because it is right. If a free society cannot help the many who are poor, it cannot save the few who are rich. To our sister republics south of our border, we offer a special pledge to convert our good words into good deeds, in a new alliance for progress, to assist free men and free governments in casting off the chains of poverty. But this peaceful revolution of hope cannot become the prey of hostile powers. let all our neighbors know that we shall join with them to oppose aggression or subversion anywhere in the Americas. And let every other power know that this hemisphere intends to remain the master of its own house. To that World Assembly of Sovereign States, the United Nations, our last best hope, in an age where the instruments of war have far outpaced the instruments of peace, we renew our pledge of support to prevent it from becoming merely a forum for invective, to strengthen its shield of the new and the weak, and to enlarge the area in which its writ may run. Finally, to those nations who would make themselves our adversary, we offer not a pledge, but a request that both sides begin anew the quest for peace. Before the dark powers of destruction, unleashed by science, engulf all humanity in planned or accidental self-destruction. We dare not tempt them with weakness, for only when our arms are sufficient beyond doubt can we be certain beyond doubt that they will never be employed. But neither can two great and powerful groups of nations take comfort from our present course, both sides overburdened by the cost of modern weapons, both rightly alarmed by the steady spread of the deadly atom, yet both racing to alter that uncertain balance of terror that stays the hand of mankind's final war. So let us begin anew, remembering on both sides that civility is not a sign of weakness, and sincerity is always subject to proof. Let us never negotiate out of fear, but let us never fear to negotiate. Let both sides explore what problems unite us, instead of belaboring those problems which divide us. Let both sides, for the first time, formulate serious and precise proposals for the inspection and control of arms, and bring the absolute power to destroy other nations under the absolute control of all nations. Let both sides seek to invoke the wonders of science instead of its terrors. Together, let us explore the stars, conquer the deserts, eradicate disease, tap the ocean depth, and encourage the arts and commerce. Let both sides unite to heed in all corners of the earth the command of Isaiah to undo the heavy burdens and let the oppressed go free. And if a beachhead of cooperation may push back the jungle of suspicion, let both sides join in creating a new endeavor, not a new balance of power, but a new world of law, where the strong are just and the weak secure and the peace preserved. All this will not be finished in the first 100 days, nor will it be finished in the first 1,000 days, nor in the life of this administration, nor even perhaps in our lifetime on this planet. But let us begin. In your hands, my fellow citizens, more than mine, will rest the final success or failure of our course. Since this country was founded, each generation of Americans has been summoned to give testimony to its national loyalty. The graves of young Americans who answered the call to service surround the globe. Now the trumpet summons us again, not as a call to bear arms, though arms we need, not as a call to battle, though in battle we are, but a call to bear the burden of a long twilight struggle, year in and year out, rejoicing in hope, patient in tribulation, a struggle against the common enemies of man, tyranny, poverty, disease, and war itself. Can we forge against these enemies a grand and global alliance, North and South, East and West, that can assure a more fruitful life for all mankind? Will you join in that historic effort? In the long history of the world, only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger. I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it. I do not believe that any of us would exchange places with any other people or any other generation. The energy, the faith, the devotion which we bring to this endeavor will light our country and all who serve it. And the glow from that fire can truly light the world. And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. My fellow citizens of the world, ask not what America will do for you, but what together we can do for the freedom of man. Finally, whether you are citizens of America or citizens of the world, ask of us here the same high standards of strength and sacrifice which we ask of you. With a good conscience, our only sure reward, with history the final judge of our deeds, let us go forth to lead the land we love, asking His blessing and His help, but knowing that here on earth, God's work must truly be our own.
Good evening, my brothers, my sisters, my elders. Today, inside these marble halls of the United Nations, history pauses. The General Assembly is in its 80th year. The same pageantry, the same protocols. Yet on this day, a young man from a landlocked nation stands at the edge of humiliation. I am Ibrahim Traoré, President of Burkina Faso. They expect me to read a confession not written by my own hand, a 12-page script drafted in Paris, in Washington, and Tel Aviv. It is meant to break me, to bend me before the watching world, but I did not come here to bow my head. I came here carrying not just my own name, but the memory of a continent that has endured centuries of fire. I know the weight of this moment, heavier than any medal or crown. Hundreds of leaders fix their gaze upon me, their eyes sharp as verdicts. Beyond these walls, millions are watching, holding their breath, waiting to see whether I will rise or crumble. Before me on this lectern lies a single file, a thin folder, yet filled with decades of betrayal, compromise, and shame. Its pages carry the ink of agreements signed under duress, of promises traded for silence. The air in this hall is thick, heavier than any applause could ever be. Not a whisper, not a cough, only the echo of my heartbeat in my ears. On every face I see the same unspoken question etched like a scar. Is this the fall of a young president or the birth of a symbol? A leader who broke under pressure, or a man who stood so still the earth began to move around him? And I wonder if our ancestors, the ones who walked barefoot through fire, who refused chains even when it meant death, could see this instant, what would they call it? Would they brand it surrender, another page in the book of our humiliation, or would they see in it the tremor of something new, the first breath of freedom, raw and unsteady but undeniable? This moment is not just mine. It belongs to the miners and farmers, the mothers and students, the soldiers who chose hunger over betrayal, the children who still dream under broken roofs. It belongs to every name whispered in struggle, every grave left unmarked. Here, under the cold glare of these lights, I carry them all. And whatever happens when I open my mouth, whether my words ignite or silence, history will judge not my posture, but my choice. I know the weight of this moment. It is heavier than any crown that could be placed upon my head, heavier than any chain that could be fastened to my wrists. Hundreds of leaders stare at me from their seats, each of them cloaked in power, calculation, and expectation. Their gazes do not merely observe, they weigh, they measure, they search for signs of weakness or resolve. Beyond these walls, millions watch across the globe, in crowded cafes and dimly lit living rooms, in villages where a single flickering screen has gathered a crowd. They lean forward not just to see a speech, but to witness a turning point. Before me lies a single file on this lectern. To the eye it is thin, almost ordinary, but I know its contents are anything but. Its pages are a history of deals and betrayals, signatures made under duress, concessions dressed up as progress. It is a ledger of our dignity, sold line by line, in exchange for illusions of security and prosperity. It is the weight of decisions made long before I stood here, yet it is mine to answer for now. The silence in this hall is a living thing. It presses against my skin, denser than any applause, more deafening than any outcry. It is the silence of people holding their breath, of centuries hanging suspended between one heartbeat and the next. On every face I read the same question carved into their features. Is this the fall of a young president, or the birth of a symbol? Will I become another name in the long list of those who promised and then yielded? Or will this be the instant where something larger than one man begins? And in the quiet, I think of those who came before, our ancestors who walked barefoot through fire, who spoke freedom when the price was death, who sang in chains so their children might one day stand. If they could see this moment, this hall, these lights, this frail folder between my hands, how would they name it? Would they call it surrender, another carefully staged humiliation, or would they see it as something else? The trembling, defiant first breath of freedom, because this moment does not belong only to me. It belongs to the farmers whose fields have been stripped, to the miners who vanish into shafts of darkness, to the mothers who bury their sons with calloused hands and unbroken eyes. It belongs to the students who dare to question, to the soldiers who chose hunger over betrayal, to the children who dream under roofs cracked by rain, but not by resignation. I am here because of them, and I carry them like a chorus inside me. I feel the pulse of history in my chest. I feel its eyes on my back, urging me, warning me, and I understand that whatever words I choose next, whether they bring fire or calm, whether they are met with cheers or condemnation, they will not be measured only as a speech. They will be measured as a choice to bow or to stand, to perpetuate or to break. This is not just an address, It is a crossing, and on the far side of this crossing something will be born, either another page of compromise or the beginning of a different story, one written not in the ink of treaties, but in the breath of a free people. This so-called confession accuses Burkina Faso of destabilizing our region, of undermining international peace, of obstructing cooperation. It demands acknowledgement, apology, submission. The logic is clear. If the young president bows, our rebellion against foreign dictates will collapse. Burkina Faso will return to the fold, chastened and silent. For some in this room, that is the evening's expected climax. For them, my age makes me a convenient target. Barely past my mid-30s, I am one of the youngest heads of state to mount this platform. Many doubt my endurance. Some whisper I am reckless. Others predict I will not last a year in office, and yet here I stand, not merely surviving, but standing at the very heart of world diplomacy. This silence is not ordinary silence. It is the hush of anticipation, like the pause before a verdict is read. Western delegations lean forward, expecting compliance. African delegations sit straighter, hoping for defiance, but fearing betrayal. Cameras hover, feeding live images into homes and offices across the globe. Every gesture, every flicker of my eyes is being studied. I approach the podium with steady steps. My uniform is plain, stripped of medals, a soldier's attire rather than a statesman's robe. I carry no notes of my own, only the file they have placed before me. I adjust the microphone. For a heartbeat, the entire hall freezes. Will I lift the paper and read the words forced upon me? Will I sign my own submission before the watching world? Or will I discard this script of humiliation and write one of my own? Every president before me has known the weight of compromise, the necessity of diplomacy, but compromise did not bring me to this stage. I come from a country often dismissed as small, landlocked, irrelevant. Yet Burkina Faso has bled in battles against insurgents, has buried leaders who dared speak of dignity. My very presence at this podium continues a line traced back through Sankara, through Lumumba, through every African voice silenced before its time. I look down at the file they have placed before me. For a long second, it might seem I will lift it, unfold the confession, and let the humiliation play out. Instead, with one deliberate motion, I close it, pressing the pages flat against the wood. The act is quiet, but in that silence, the chamber shifts. The defendant has just rejected the prosecutor's script. Now my voice rises, calm at first, then sharper with every phrase. Let us speak, I say, of the first great crime. My words carry not just to the microphones, but into the memory of centuries. I speak of the transatlantic slave trade, 12 million Africans torn from their homes, shackled in iron, forced across oceans. This is not distant history, it is the foundation of Western empires. The wealth of cotton, of sugar, of coffee was built not on labor, but on blood. Delegates shift in their seats. This is not the language of diplomacy, this is indictment. The second crime is financial slavery. I speak of the CFA franc, a currency still chained to Paris. For decades, African nations have been compelled to deposit half of our foreign reserves in the French treasury, more than $500 billion withheld from our hands. Some in the French delegation avoid eye contact. For once, the accusation is backed by numbers too precise to dismiss. I turn to Rwanda, the third crime, genocide. 800,000 lives lost in 100 days of fire and machetes. I do not flinch in naming France as protector of those who carried out this act. The air grows tense. Translators hesitate, the weight of every syllable pressing down on the chamber. The fourth crime is the debt that strangles us. Africa's external debt surpasses $685 billion, nearly $90 billion in repayments due this very year. We borrow not to live but to survive, while our children die not from illness, but from the price of medicine. The cold arithmetic of exploitation is laid bare. Then agriculture, the fifth crime, the destruction of our fields. Ghanaian cocoa farmers ruined by forced liberalization while Nestle and Cargill pocket billions. When our farmers fall, their corporations rise. The sixth crime is the murder of our leaders. Patrice Lumumba in Congo, 1961. Thomas Sankara in Burkina Faso, 1987. When our leaders spoke of dignity, they were buried, but their voices rise still through us. I do not pause. The seventh crime, the Cold War. Dictators like Mobutu were armed while millions starved. We received weapons instead of bread. Then oil, the eighth crime, the plundering of Nigeria. I name Exxon Mobil, Total. Rivers poisoned, soil toxic. 30 million people condemned to a life expectancy barely reaching 50. The ninth crime, foreign bases. 29 American military sites, 10 French bases still planted in African soil. They call it stability, but every base is another chain upon our sovereignty. Finally, my voice sharpens to a blade. The 10th crime is the manipulation of human rights. Zimbabwe condemned, Sudan sanctioned, yet Chad and Gabon spared because they serve foreign interests. For them, human rights are not principles, they are weapons. By the time my 10th charge falls into the chamber, the atmosphere has transformed. This hall is no longer a stage for polite speeches. It is a courtroom, and the West stands accused. Yet, I am not finished. My eyes sweep across the delegations. I call names. Emmanuel Macron, you inherit not merely a presidency, but an empire of colonizers. The French delegation stiffens. Donald Trump, you turn trade and oil into bargaining chips bought with blood. You claim greatness, but it is paid with suffering, not your own. American diplomats freeze, expressionless. Then I strike at finance itself. To the directors of the International Monetary Fund, you wear the mask of development, but you are wardens of a financial prison. The silence that follows is heavier than thunder, and still my voice carries. We ask no pity. We demand justice. When the last word leaves my lips, the chamber does not erupt in applause. It does not descend into chaos. Instead, a silence deeper than any roar presses upon the room. The silence of unease, of guilt, of truths that cannot be denied. Western delegates avoid one another's eyes. Some scribble furiously, as if notes can shield them from accusation. Others fold their hands, frozen in place. Across the African bloc, shoulders straighten, eyes sharpen. The silence for them is victory. I know already what the United Nations will do. Within hours, officials will announce that my speech will not be entered into the official record, citing procedural irregularities. But censorship in the digital age is a sieve. By nightfall, the full transcript will leak online. Screens will light up in Nairobi and Lagos. In Johannesburg, students will project my words onto university walls. We ask for no pity. We demand justice. Social media will ignite like dry brush meeting flame. Hashtags bearing my name will surge across Africa, trending not only in French and English, but in Swahili, Yoruba, Wolof, Zulu. Commentators will call it the most defiant African address since the age of decolonization. I can already imagine the diaspora echoing this fire. In Paris, young Africans will march past the Eiffel Tower with placards reading, "Traoré speaks for us." In London, chants of "No more chains" will ring through Trafalgar Square. In New York and Washington, African American leaders will speak of the resonance with their own history, comparing my defiance to the oratory of civil rights preachers. Churches in Atlanta and Detroit will read passages from my address aloud as though they are scripture, but not all response will be celebration. In policy circles, from Washington to Brussels, whispers of alarm will spread. Analysts will warn of a dangerous precedent. If a small landlocked nation can defy the script, others might follow. Could this speech ignite a chorus of voices refusing the language of dependency? Western media will scramble to shape the narrative. Some outlets will dismiss it as theater, the outburst of an inexperienced leader. Others will note its undeniable historical weight, even as they hesitate to endorse my claims. Cable news anchors will debate late into the night. Was this recklessness, or was it the moral conversation of our time? Yet through it all, one fact will remain unshakable. This speech cannot be buried. The silence of the chamber will give way to the noise of the streets, the hum of online platforms, the echo in houses of worship. What began as a carefully staged confession will become a wildfire of defiance. And yet, amid the chants and the hashtags, a deeper question will linger. The world will have heard my indictment, but what will come of it? By dawn the next morning, I will no longer be merely the president of Burkina Faso. I will have become something larger, something uncontained by borders or titles. What was planned as a humiliating spectacle will have turned into a transformation so swift that even my enemies struggle to grasp it. I know the risks. Western powers rarely accept humiliation without response. Whispers will spread of sanctions, of financial pressure, even of plots to remove me by force. The ghosts of Lumumba and Sankara will linger in every discussion, reminders that courage alone does not guarantee survival. Within Africa, too, the test is not simple. Pride can unify, but it can also divide. Some leaders will welcome this wave of dignity. Others will fear that my flame might ignite fires they cannot control. Still, I tell you, after this day, the world can no longer pretend Africa will sit silently. Whether in triumph or in tragedy, I will have made sure of that. History rarely announces its turning points. They arrive disguised as ordinary moments, only later revealed as fire. What was meant to be a confession has become a charge sheet. What was meant to be humiliation has become defiance. And so I close with these words. We did not ask permission to be free. We stood up to claim it. In those words live the lessons of dignity, memory, courage, and identity. Dignity, that true strength comes not from recognition, but from refusing to bow. Memory, that the past is not erased. It breathes through generations. Courage, that one honest voice can carry farther than 1,000 empty declarations. Identity, that freedom begins the moment we stop imitating and start embracing who we are. Some will call this speech rumor. Others will swear it truth. The United Nations may choose not to publish it, yet whether fact or fable, it will spread as history itself. Because history is not only what is recorded in documents, it is also what burns in memory, what circulates in whispers, what marches in the streets. The question then is not whether I spoke these words. The question is what you will do with them. Will you let them pass as a headline, forgotten by tomorrow's news, or will you take them as a vow, a reminder that justice cannot wait for permission? To you, the listener, I offer a challenge. In your own life, are you waiting for permission, or are you ready to stand and claim what is right? If my story moves you, carry forward one word, justice, or freedom, or simply black gold. Let the world know which flame you will carry forward, because freedom is never given, it is seized by those who dare to demand.
But Mr. President, I feel that there is a lack of seriousness. Perhaps world leaders some of the leaders who can do a lot, do not realize the urgency of the situation. We have a lot of ideas, but as someone said, ideas without funding is mere hallucination. Pakistan, I'll give you start with my own country. Our country is amongst the top 10 nations in the world which are most affected by climate change. We depend upon our rivers. We are mainly an agricultural country. And 80% of the water in our rivers comes from our glaciers. The glaciers not just on the Pakistani side, even India. The 80% of the water in Ganges and the Indian rivers also comes from the glaciers, from the Himalayan glaciers, Karakoram, Hindu Kush. And these glaciers are melting at quite a rapid pace. We detected already 5,000 glacial lakes in in our mountains. And if this keeps going, if nothing is done, we are scared that humans are facing a huge catastrophe. In my country, when my party came to power in the province of KP, we planted 1 billion trees in 5 years. Now we've set ourselves a target of 10 billion trees in Pakistan. Idea being to counter this, the effects of global warming. But one country cannot do anything. This has to be a combined effort of the world. My optimism comes from the fact that humans, the Almighty has endowed humans with great powers. We can do anything, provided our survival instinct is stirred up. And this is really what I hope that the United Nations will take a lead in this. There must be more emphasis. Richer countries must be pushed. Countries that are responsible for, mainly are responsible for greenhouse gas emissions. They must be pushed because our country contributes minuscule amount to greenhouse gases. So I feel that the United Nations must take leadership in this. My second issue for me right now is even more critical. Mr. President, every year, billions of dollars leave the poorer countries and go towards rich countries. Billions of dollars siphoned off by the ruling elites of the developing world. And they find their way into Western bank accounts, offshore accounts, tax havens, expensive properties hidden behind companies bought in Western capitals. Mr. President, this is devastating the developing world. This is causing more poverty, debts. It's impoverishing the developing world. The difference between rich and poor countries is growing because of this. Money laundering, which happens because money leaves the poorer countries into rich countries, is not treated the same as, for instance, money from drugs or terror financing. The seriousness which terror financing and money from drugs, the way it is treated, it's not the same. The way the poor countries are being plundered by their elites. It's not happening. In my country, when I took charge of our government a year back, in the 10 years preceding that, our total debt went up 4 times. The debt we had accumulated in 60 years, just in 10 years, it went up 4 times. As a result, the total revenue we collected in 1 year, half of it went into debt servicing. How are we going to spend money on our human beings, 220 million people, when half the money is going into debt servicing? Because our country was plundered by the elites, the ruling elite. And easily they could get the money out. And when, Mr. President, we located properties in Western capitals bought by this money through corruption and money laundering, located the properties of these corrupt leaders, we find it so difficult to retrieve it. That money, if we retrieved that money, we could spend on our human beings. But it's so difficult. The laws protecting these criminals. We do not have the sort of money to have expensive lawyers and spend millions and millions of dollars. We need help from the rich countries. And Mr. President, it's critical. The rich countries must show political will. They cannot allow this to happen. How can the poor countries spend money on human development, which the United Nations asks, SDG? How are we going to do it when this money can easily leave our countries? So, unless the rich countries intend to build walls to stop economic refugees coming as we see right now, they must take action. They must take action now. It must be a deterrent. Corrupt ruling elites should not be able to take money out easily and park it into foreign bank accounts and into these properties abroad. And I never understand why. Why do we have these tax havens? Why is this allowed? Why shouldn't rich people pay taxes? Why is it legal to have these tax havens where you have these secret accounts? Because, the world is changing. The population of the world is growing. Sooner or later, you're going to have a crisis. If the poor get poorer and the rich get richer, there is going to be a crisis sooner or later. So this is my second point. I hope that the United Nations takes a lead in this. It involves the IMF, the World Bank, Asian Development Bank. They must find a way of stopping this plunder of the developing world. My third point is Islamophobia. There are 1.3 billion Muslims in this world. There are millions of Muslims living in other countries, European countries, in the US, as minorities. Islamophobia, since 9/11, has grown at a pace where it is alarming. Human communities live together. There should be understanding amongst them. But Islamophobia is creating a division. Muslim women wearing hijab, it's become an issue. It's become an issue in some countries. Hijab is some sort of a weapon. A woman can take off her clothes in countries, but she can't put on more clothes. How is this happening? Because of Islamophobia. And how did this Islamophobia start? After 9/11. And why did it start? Because certain Western leaders equated terrorism with Islam. Islamic terrorism. Radical Islam. What is radical Islam? There is only one Islam. And that is the Islam we follow of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There is no other Islam. Radical Islam, Islamic terrorism, what message did they send to people in the West? And why is there Islamophobia? How is a person in New York, in the Midwest, in the US, in European capital, how is he going to distinguish between who is a moderate Muslim and who's a radical Muslim? Because terrorism has nothing to do with any religion. This Islamic terrorism, Islamic radicalism, and sadly used by leaders, this has been the main reason for this Islamophobia. And it has caused pain amongst Muslims. We in Muslim countries watch this Islamophobia traveling abroad, and it's getting worse. And may I just say, Mr. President, that in European countries, it is marginalizing Muslim communities. And we all know that marginalization leads to radicalization. Some of the people who ended up as militants in Syria and other places were from marginalized Muslim communities. And my point here is that we must address this issue. I'm sad to say that we've Muslim leaders have not addressed this issue either. After 9/11, when this thing came about war against radical Islam, rather than Muslim leaders trying to explain to the West that there is no such thing as radical Islam, in all human communities, they are radicals. They're liberals and rest are moderate. All human communities, Christians, Jews, everyone has it. But Islam is not radical, neither Judaism, neither Christianity, neither Hinduism. No religion preaches radicalism. The basis of all religion is compassion and justice, which differentiates us from the animal kingdom. But unfortunately, the Muslim leadership was so scared of being called radical Islam that all of them became moderates. In Pakistan, we were in the eye of the storm, and our government coined a phrase called enlightened moderation. No one knows what it meant. But everyone started putting on Western suits that they were moderates, started speaking. Even those who didn't know English would speak English because they were moderates. No one had a clue what it was, because we, in the Muslim world, did not explain to the West that there is no such thing as radical Islam. One of the reasons why, after 9/11, Islam was supposed to be equated with terrorism was suicide attacks. Because the 9/11 bombers did a suicide attack, all sorts of theories came up that the Muslims are involved in suicide attacks because they will get virgin in heavens. Some came up with, what about women, suicide attackers? So this bizarre thing happened. No one explained. Suicide attacks and Islam were equated. No one did research that before 9/11, the majority of suicide attacks in the world were by Tamil Tigers, who were Hindus. No one blamed Hinduism, and quite rightly. What has Hinduism got to do with what desperate people were doing in Sri Lanka? We all know we've seen films about Japanese kamikaze pilots at the end of the Second World War doing suicide attacks. No one blamed the religion. But here we were, trying to prove we were moderates and not explaining to the West. But the most important thing I wanted to say here today, in explaining this Islamophobia, Mr. President, and I feel it's very important because I played professional sport in England, I spent a lot of time there, so I know how the Western mind works and how West views religion. So where the misunderstanding about Islam came. And one of the reasons it caused Islamophobia. That was, in 1989, this book was published, maligning, insulting, ridiculing our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And there was a reaction in the Muslim world. The West couldn't understand what was the problem. Because in the West, because I have spent so much time in the West, religion is perceived completely differently. They don't look upon religion like we do. And so, Islam was supposed to be an intolerant religion. It was against freedom of expression. And Islam took a real beating 30 years ago. I still remember it became a watershed. And every 2 or 3 years, someone would malign our Prophet, peace be upon him. There would be a reaction by the Muslims. And again, it was Islam, an intolerant religion. Again, this time, I blame a certain section of the people in the West who deliberately provoked this, knowing the impact it would have. But the majority of the people in the West didn't understand. This is where, again, Muslim leadership let the Muslims down. We should have explained to them what our Prophet, peace be upon him, means to us. So in 1 minute, I'll try and explain what he means to us. Our Prophet was the witness to the divine book, the Holy Quran. The Holy Quran is the book of guidance for Muslims, and the Prophet's life was living the Quran. He was an example of what the Quran guided us to be. So he is the ideal we all try to get to. The Prophet created the state of Medina, the first state in Islam. That state was the basis of a Muslim civilization which became the predominant civilization for the next 700 years. And what was that state? I hear such strange things about Islam, that it is against women, it's against minorities. The first state of Islam in Medina, it was the first time a welfare state was set up. The state took responsibility of the weak, widows, orphans, poor people, handicapped. It taxed the rich, spent the money on the poor. The state announced that all human beings are children of Adam, hence equal, whatever the color of their skin. The state announced, the Prophet announced that, and slavery, the whole system depended on slavery as it did for many years in the Western societies. The Prophet said that one of the greatest deeds is to free a slave. But because the society depended on slavery, he said, but if you have to, treat them as an equal member of the family. And as a result, something happened in a Muslim world which hasn't happened in any other civilization. Slave dynasties appeared. Slaves became kings. The Mamluks, slaves who ruled Egypt. In India, there were slave dynasties. And then, with minorities, again, you hear that Islam is supposed to be against minorities. Let me just make this clear. In Islam, the Prophet announced that everyone was free to practice his religion. It was a sacred duty to protect the places of worship of all religions. He announced that every person is equal in front of law, whatever his religion or his color. And this incredible case, and I always quote this, that the fourth Khalifa, the head of state of Medina, he lost a court case against a Jewish citizen. So, number one, it showed there was a rule of law, no one was above law. And number two, that a Jewish citizen was an equal citizen. So, Mr. President, when a Muslim society is unjust to its minorities, it is going against the religion of Islam and our Prophet, peace be upon him. So, it is important to understand this. The Prophet lives in our hearts. When he's ridiculed, when he's insulted, it hurts. As we human beings understand one thing: the pain of the heart is far, far, far more hurtful than physical pain. And that's why the Muslims react. And I always thought that if I ever had the stage, I would try and explain this to the world community, especially to the Western community, because having lived in the Western community, people didn't understand this. When I first went as a teenager to England, there was a comedy film on Jesus Christ. It's unthinkable in Muslim societies. So we need to explain that, look, in a human community, we must be sensitive to what causes pain to other human beings. We have, in the Western society, and quite rightly, the Holocaust is treated with sensitivity because it gives the Jewish community pain. That's all we ask. That do not use freedom of speech to cause us pain by insulting a holy prophet. That's all we want. And now, the number 4th point, Mr. President, and this is the most critical point, is the reason why I especially came here. It is about what is happening in Kashmir. Before I go on this, I want to make one thing clear, that when we came to power, my first priority was that Pakistan would be a country which will try its best to bring peace. We had been through this war on terror. We joined the United States war on terror after 2001. And Pakistan went through one of its worst periods where 70,000 Pakistanis died and over 150 billion was lost to our economy. And Mr. President, I opposed the war because in the 80s, Pakistan had joined the Western countries in what was the freedom struggle then in Afghanistan against the Soviets. And it was funded by the Western countries. These Mujahideen groups, which were treated in guerrilla warfare, were trained by Pakistan Army, funded by the Western countries, and especially US, and they waged what was a freedom struggle in Afghanistan. The Soviets called them terrorists. We called them freedom fighters. 1989, the Soviets retreated. The Americans packed up and left. Pakistan was left with these groups. Come 9/11, Pakistan joined the United States in this war on terror. And now our government was supposed to, the reason why I opposed joining this war, because here we had indoctrinated them in jihad, meaning freedom struggle against foreign occupation. Now, because we had joined the US, and the US had occupied Afghanistan, now we were supposed to tell them that, no, this is not freedom struggle and jihad, it's terrorism. So that's why I tried to tell then government that, stay neutral because you will have leverage over them. You will be able to control them. But if you join them, you become collaborators and they will attack you, which is what happened. They turned against us. We went through a nightmare. 70,000 people killed in a war we had nothing to do with. No Pakistani was involved in 9/11. Taliban were in Afghanistan. Al-Qaeda was in Afghanistan. What had we to do with it? 70,000 Pakistanis died. So when we came to power, we decided that we would dismantle what was left of these groups. And this decision was taken not just by us, but by all the political parties in Pakistan. Unfortunately, they didn't implement it. So we came to power, we decided to implement it, and we dismantled whatever was left of the groups. And I know that India keeps accusing us that there are these groups there. I would like the United Nations to send observers, see for themselves what we've done. No Pakistani government would have dared to do this because it would have created strife. But we decided that there would be no militant organizations in Pakistan. So I need to give you this background and to what I'm going to say later on. And secondly, we started mending fences. I invited the Afghan president. We developed a relationship with Afghanistan. We had problems with Iran. We mended fences there. And then India. Now let me just give you a little background about my relationship with India. Because of cricket, and cricket being it's a passion in the subcontinent. I had great following in India. I have friends in India. And I loved going to India. So immediately, when my party came to power, the first thing we did was to immediately reach out to India. And I spoke to President Modi and I said, look, we have similar problems. Climate change, poverty, let's get together. Let's resolve our differences through trade. Let's build a relationship on trust. Prime Minister Modi told me that, there were terrorist attacks from Pakistan. I said, we have problems with you. There are terrorist attacks which we know are instigated by India in Balochistan. We caught a spy, Kulbhushan Yadav, who admitted what the sabotage going on in Karachi and Balochistan. So we said, look, let's leave that behind. Let's move forward. Our main priority should be our people. The highest number of poor people live in the Indian subcontinent. Unfortunately, didn't make any headways. Our foreign ministers were supposed to meet on this in the UNGA last year. India cancelled it. We thought that it's their election coming up. It's a nationalist, ultra-nationalist party. It doesn't want to cozy up to Pakistan. So we thought, okay, we'll wait till the elections. Meanwhile, a 20-year-old Kashmiri boy, whose father said was radicalized by the security forces in Kashmir, blew himself up on an Indian convoy. Immediately, India blamed us. I spoke to the Indian public on television. I said, if you give us any iota of proof, we will immediately take action, because we've clamped down on these groups. Rather than sending us any proofs, they sent their jets in, they bombed us. We retaliated. Two of their planes were shot down, one pilot bailed out in Pakistan. We immediately returned the pilot, saying that, look, we do not want any escalation. Rather than taking that as a peace gesture, the entire campaign, almost the entire campaign of Mr. Modi in the election was how he had taught Pakistan a lesson that jets had killed 350 terrorists. Complete lie. They had just killed about 10 trees of ours, which was quite painful given that, we are growing all these trees. He then the election campaign, Mr. Modi used words like, this is just a trailer, the movie is about to start. I went into Pakistan and taught them a lesson. This was the election campaign. Okay, so we thought, us politicians make all these statements to win elections. So, okay, after elections, we'll get back to our normal relationship. Well, the moment the elections ended, we approached India, no response, but then we discovered they were trying to push us in the FATF blacklist to bankrupt us. That's when we realized there was an agenda. And that agenda became obvious on the 5th August when India went against 11 United Nations Security Council resolutions which say that Kashmir is a disputed territory and the people of Kashmir have the right of self-determination. They went against that. They went against Simla Accord, which is about bilateral, sorting out our differences through bilateral means, went against that. They actually went against the Indian Constitution. Illegally, they revoked Article 370, which gave Kashmir the special status. They got an extra 180,000 troops there. Total number of security forces in Kashmir now are 900,000. And they put 8 million people of Kashmir under curfew. Mr. President, now I just briefly want to make the people understand how can anyone do something like this? And for that, I have to explain to you what is RSS. RSS, Mr. Narendra Modi is a life member of RSS. RSS was an organization that was inspired by Adolf Hitler and Mussolini, came about in 1925. They believed in racial purity, racial superiority. They also believed they were an Aryan race like the Nazi believed they were an Aryan race. All that I'm saying can be verified. This is the time of information revolution. You can Google all this, what I'm saying. But it is very important for me to explain this to you so you know what is happening in India. This RSS believed in the ethnic cleansing of Muslims from India. At one point, there was racial superiority of the Hindu race. Secondly, it was hatred for the Muslims and for the Christians, because they believed that this golden age of Hindu civilization was stopped because of Muslim rule centuries back and then the British rule of India. So it was racial superiority and hatred for Muslims and Christians. This is openly stated. You look at the founding fathers of RSS, Golwalkar and Savarkar. Just Google them and you'll find out. And this ideology of hate is what murdered the great Mahatma Gandhi in 1948. It was this ideology of hate that made Narendra Modi in 2002 do a pogrom against Muslims in Gujarat when he was the chief minister. He allowed 3 days for these RSS goons who were inspired by the Hitler brown shirts. They actually wear brown shirts. This RSS, the Congress Home Minister gave a statement that in RSS camps, terrorists are being trained. And these terrorists butchered 2,000 Muslims and 150,000 Muslims were made homeless. Narendra Modi could not travel to the US because of that. And I need to make you understand this background before I explain to you that what sort of a mindset would lay siege to 8 million people with 900,000 troops. Women, children, sick people, locked in as animals. In fact, of what I know of England, if 8 million animals were locked in, the RSPCA would have made a lot of noise about it. These are human beings. And Mr. President, what comes with racial superiority, these illusions of Aryan superior race, is arrogance. The two go together. And it's arrogance that makes people make mistakes and do stupid things. Cruel things like what Narendra Modi has done. It's sheer arrogance. And it's arrogance that has blinded him from the fact that what is going to happen when the curfew is lifted? Has he thought about it? This hasn't been thought through. What is he going to do when he lifts the curfew? Does he think that people of Kashmir will quietly accept the status quo because India has changed the constitution and taken away the special status? They'll accept that? Mr. President, 100,000 Kashmiris have died in the past 30 years because they were denied the right given by the United Nations, the right for self-determination. 100,000 have died and 11,000 women have been raped. There are two United Nations human rights reports on this. The world hasn't done anything because India is a huge market, 1.2 billion people. Sadly, the material prevails over the human. But this has serious consequences. Again, I repeat, that's why I'm here. Look, what is going to happen when the curfew is lifted will be a bloodbath. The people will come out. There are 900,000 troops there. They haven't come to, as Narendra Modi says, he's done this for prosperity of Kashmir. This is supposed to be for the development. These 900,000 troops, what are they going to do when they come out? There'll be a bloodbath. Has he thought it through what happens then? Mr. President, has anyone thought that what happens when there is a bloodbath? What do you think the impact will have on people of Kashmir? What do you think they will think? The way they have been boxed in their houses, treated like worse than animals, no rights. Thousands of all the political leadership has been arrested, taken out of Kashmir. Even those Kashmiri leaders who were pro-India have been taken out. 13,000 boys have been picked up and taken to God knows which destinations. So what do they think? What will the people of Kashmir do when they lift the curfew? They will be out in the streets. And what will these soldiers do? They will shoot them. They've already used pellet guns, blinded young boys. In the last 6 years, the 5 years, the oppression that has gone on in Kashmir. And so, Kashmiris will be further radicalized. Mr. President, there will be another Pulwama. And guess what? India will blame us. They're already blaming us. They're saying all this is happening because of Pakistan. One of their defense ministers said, there are 500 terrorists lined up on the border to go in. Why would Pakistan send 500 terrorists when there are 900,000 troops? What impact are they going to make? What will they do? And don't we know that the moment there is some terrorist attack, all that will happen is there'll be further cruelty and oppression of the people of Kashmir. We will just give the 900,000 troops to further crush the people of Kashmir. And then we'll give the Indian government an excuse that, look, Pakistan is a terrorist state, and this mantra that has gone on, Islamic terrorism. The moment you use this catchword, Islamic terrorism, the whole world turns away. No one talks about human rights. You can do whatever you want, which is what has happened in Kashmir, because they keep using this word, Islamic terrorism. And this is what they're doing right now. What do we benefit from further increasing the cruelty on the people of Kashmir? And why would we want this? But there is no other narrative left for India. As when they lift the curfew, whatever happens, Pakistan will be blamed, and there is always a danger of another Pulwama. They might come and bomb us again, and then another cycle might start. And what does Narendra Modi think that 180 million Muslims of India are thinking right now? Aren't they watching these Kashmiris stuck inside for 55 days they've been stuck in? Aren't they watching? What do you think? Don't you think that the Muslims will be radicalized in India? And I'm talking about 180 million people. And when they get radicalized, there will be some incident in India somewhere down the line. again we will be blamed. And I'm warning you right now, again we will be blamed. And Mr. President, what about 1.3 billion Muslims who are watching this? And they know that it is only happening in Kashmir because they're Kashmiri Muslims. This is not happening to Kashmiri Hindus. They know that this is happening because of their religion. So what do you think they will be thinking? What do you think the Jewish community would think if there were, forget 8 million, 8,000 Jews stuck like this? What do you think Europeans would think? What do we think? I mean, any human community, if their members are stuck like that, what do you think they will think? Are we a children of a lesser God? Is it not going to cause us pain? And then I'll tell you what will happen. People will, in the 1.3 billion Muslims, someone will pick up arms. I know we've been brought up with films, Western films. This good, decent guy doesn't get justice. He decides to pick up a gun and start seeking justice. There was a film made in New York, famous film called Death Wish. This guy gets mugged by and his family, his wife gets killed or something. He can't get justice. He picks up a gun and he goes around shooting muggers. And the whole cinema cheers him on. So what do you think the Muslims are thinking right now? If there is a bloodbath, there will be Muslims becoming radicals, not because of Islam, but because of what they will see, that there's no justice when it comes to Muslims. There were Rohingya Muslims, Myanmar, who are, God knows, almost 1 million people out, ethnic cleansing. What was the response of the world community? So what do you think will be the response of 1.3 billion Muslims? I picture myself. I'm in Kashmir. I've been locked up for 55 days. I have heard about, and there are rapes, Indian Army going into homes, soldiers. Would I want to live this humiliation? Would I want to live like that? I would pick up a gun. You're forcing people. You are forcing people into radicalization. When people lose the will to live, what is there to live for? And this is what, if you can do this to human beings, you are actually radicalizing people. And so, Mr. President, I want to repeat here, this is one of the most critical times. There will be a reaction to this. Pakistan will be blamed. 2 nuclear-armed countries will come face to face like we came in February. And before we head in that direction, the United Nations has a responsibility. This is why the United Nations came into being in 1945. You were supposed to stop this happening. I feel we are back to 1939, Munich. Czechoslovakia has been taken, annexed. What is the world community going to do? Is it going to appease a market of 1.2 billion, or is it going to stand up for justice and humanity? If this goes wrong, you hope for the best, but be prepared for the worst. If a conventional war starts between the 2 countries, Mr. President, if a conventional war starts, and anything could happen. But supposing a country 7 times smaller than its neighbor is faced with the choice, either you surrender or you fight for your freedom till death, what will we do? I ask myself this question. And my belief is, La ilaha illallah, there is no God but one. And we will fight. And when a nuclear armed country fights to the end, it will have consequences far beyond the borders. It will have consequences for the world, which is why I repeat I'm here. Because I'm warning you, it's not a threat. It's a fair worry that where are we headed? And I've come here to tell the UN, you've got to, this is a test for the United Nations. You are the one who guaranteed the people of Kashmir the right of self-determination. They are suffering because of that. And this is the time. This is the time not to appease like in 1939 appeasement took place. This is the time to take action. And number one action must be that India must lift this inhuman curfew, which has lasted for 55 days. It must free all political prisoners, and especially those 13,000 boys that have been picked up. Parents don't know where they've disappeared. And then the world community must give the people of Kashmir the right of self-determination. Thank you.
En nombre de la Asamblea General agradezco.
On behalf of the General Assembly, I would like to thank His Excellency, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, and I ask protocol to escort His Excellency.